high-spending Tory government poses obvious questions, as we were just saying, for the Labour opposition about the distinctiveness of its policies on taxation and indeed spending. Under Keir Starmer, Labour's also positioned itself as a critical friend over the pandemic and has taken a watch-and-wait attitude to the Brexit negotiations. Rachel Reeves, the shadow cabinet member who leads on Brexit, is with me now. Rachel Reeves, welcome. Can I start with a very straightforward good morning, yes or no question? Are you in favour of compulsory face masks in England when we're shopping?
Yes, I think that would be a sensible way forward. I think people are increasingly wearing them, but some greater clarity from government about that, I think, would be helpful. People want to do the right thing, but they want to know what the right thing is. And so we already have it on public transport. I think it would inspire greater confidence and might encourage more people to go out and spend money if they see more people wearing face masks in shops.
Now, as a party, you have been quietly supportive of a lot of what the government said about Brexit recently. Michael Gove is now announcing a new border with all the spending, the extra jobs, the extra infrastructure. Do you welcome that?
I think it's too little, too late. It's only just over 5 months now until the end of the transition period. The government have had 4 years now to put in place the procedures that we need to ensure the free flow of goods and services across that border. We left the European Union in January this year. The transition period comes to an end at the end of this year. We saw an extraordinary letter from the Cabinet Minister Liz Truss to the Chancellor and to Michael Gove this week, setting out a whole range of concerns that we've also just heard in your previous interview about a lack of preparation on the Northern Ireland border, about potentially being in breach of World Trade Organization rules, the risks of smuggling, and all of those concerns expressed by a senior cabinet minister with less than 6 months until the end of the transition period. So I look forward to hearing what Michael Gove has got to say. But so far we've heard from the government that there's going to be a lorry park, a 27-hectare lorry park 20 miles from the border in Dover. Well, look, I think we're all in favour of infrastructure investment, but I thought that was going to mean hospitals, railways and new schools around the country, not investment in a lorry park in Kent. And so I would like to know from Michael Gove how much this is going to cost, the number of additional customs officials to implement this bureaucracy, but also, most crucially, the cost to British businesses, because the Labour Party want to see British business thrive, create jobs and export. We don't want to see exports stuck at a lorry park in southern England.
The Labour Party is also very clear that you want to see a trade deal, if at all possible. Now, it's clear that this is getting very, very difficult. In the interests of keeping Britain completely independent after Brexit, do you support the government in being absolutely and resolutely opposed to any involvement of the European Court of Justice after this is over?
Well, look, I think the public are pretty astounded that after the promises we heard from the government at the general election last year that there was an oven-ready deal, they stood down the yellowhammer preparations for no deal, that here we are on the 12th of July without any progress in the talks. I'm very happy that that the government are continuing the negotiations. I think that it is right to say the European Court of Justice shouldn't be able to oversee, but there must be compromise on both sides, from the European Union and from the UK government. We were promised an oven-ready deal. It looks like the government's forgot to switch the oven on, and here we are with just over 5 months to go, with no clarity for businesses about how to prepare. And businesses have had a torrid time these last few months. They're looking for certainty from the government, and we're sadly lacking that still today.
So you basically back the government on the ECJ issue, opening that oven door one more time. It's clear post-COVID how important the state aid rules are going to be in getting the British economy going again. Again, I ask you, if the EU insists on their own state aid rules and not the freedoms that we're going to get after this, would you back the government on that too?
I think the government have hid behind EU state aid rules on too many occasions as an excuse not to support British industry. I don't think it is the European Union that has stopped the British government supporting British businesses over the last 10 years. I think it is their ideological opposition to supporting British industry. So I have no truck with the government hiding behind those rules as a reason to fail to support British businesses. And, you know, we've seen it again in the financial statement from the Chancellor this week, where businesses from aviation and aerospace to automotives to the beauty sector have been calling out and demanding support from government, and very little was forthcoming this week. So the government can't hide behind EU rules. It's their own choices of whether they want to support British industry, and I'm afraid this government have been found wanting.
Of the specific measures made in that announcement from Rishi Sunak this week, all the different measures to support jobs and so on, are there any that you actually oppose?
There's one that I would very much oppose, and that is the reduction in stamp duty for the purchases of second homes and buy-to-let properties. That could cost £1 billion based on assumptions about the purchases of those homes last year. Last year, a third of homes purchased were purchased as either second homes or as buy-to-let properties by private landlords. I don't think it is right to give those people tax cuts.
Right.
When we're spending taxpayers' money, it's really important that we target that at the industries that are frankly on their knees and at workers who have lost their jobs or in fear of losing their jobs, and not to give a tax break to those people who can afford second homes or buy-to-let properties.
So this is really about whose shoulders bear the main burden of paying for all the costs of the COVID crisis in the long term. The Shadow Chancellor has said, your colleague Annalise Dodds has said, that she's not in favour of tax rises. Is that really the Labour Party's position, that after all this time, as the party which wants higher taxes on those with the broadest shoulders, the better off, you're coming away from that?
We're in a situation right now where the entire focus of government should be on protecting jobs and creating new jobs. The focus has got to... We're in a situation right now where the entire focus, the right thing to do by British businesses that are on their knees, by workers who are desperate for some hope for the future, but also that's the best way to get our public finances back on track as well. Because if people are in work, it means they're spending money in their local communities, in shops and bars and restaurants and cafes. It means that they are paying taxes and contributing to the public finances. And so that's why we say that the priority right now should be on jobs and getting our economy moving. This is not the right time to be putting up taxes. This is the time to be focusing all of government's efforts to getting the economy growing and creating those jobs. And that will help address the dire situation with the public finances as well.
But before long, as a country, we are going to have to pay for all of this. If Rishi Sunak came to the Labour Party now and said, look, I'm afraid that everybody earning over, say, £80,000 a year has to pay more tax to get the public finances back in support, would you say, no, we're against those tax rises?
Well, we would look at any proposals that the government have put forward, and under Keir Starmer's leadership and with Annalise Dodds as our Shadow Chancellor, we have tried to be a constructive opposition, to support the government when they get things right, but to push them further, including on jobs and support with the flexible furlough scheme that we want to see, when we think the government needs to do more. But right now, we think the entire focus of government and the Treasury should be to get people back into work.
Sorry to jump in again, but asking people earning over £80,000 a year to pay more tax was a Labour policy. Have you really moved away from those kind of policies? Labour is no longer the party of fair taxes, of taxing people with the broadest shoulders most. Is that really the position?
Well, we're not setting out proposals at the moment for the next manifesto. The next general election is likely to be 4 years away. We had a terrible defeat in the election last year. Right. We need to reassess a whole range of policies, and I'm not going to write our manifesto on an ad hoc basis on this programme, Andrew. There's plenty of time to do that work, but right now the focus has got to be on jobs, as Keir Starmer and Annalise Dodds has said out very clearly this week.
One very quick, different question. Is it really true that Labour is boycotting Facebook? And if it is, why?
Well, all MPs and the Labour Party use Facebook to get across our message, but what we're not doing at the moment is advertising on Facebook. And that is in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter campaign, but also in line with what many businesses are doing this month, which is to express our concerns about the failure of Facebook to take down some hateful material from their platforms, and to take more responsibility for the lies and the propaganda that are sometimes put out there on Facebook. And Facebook need to do more to take responsibility. And this is just one way that businesses and the Labour Party and others can put pressure on Facebook to do the right thing and to take a tougher action on hate crime and hate speech.
Some good, clear answers. Rachel Reeves, thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning.